Welcome to Glove Talk, your weekly news and boxing. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. We're going to get into a little bit of news, and then we're going to go through the weight classes, going from lightest weight class to the heaviest weight class. So first, right off the bat, last week we talked about Roberto Duran being admitted to the hospital due to COVID-19. I'm happy to report that he has made a recovery and is healthy and is now out of the hospital. So great news there, and I'm very happy to hear that he is at home with his family and happy and healthy. Okay, so from that we are going to be moving to bantamweight, and that is Manuel Navarrete saying that he wants to fight Inoue and that he believes that Inoue would not be able to take the same kind of punishment that Isaac Dogboe did. And I'm just going to say this, keep this kind of story short and sweet. I wouldn't poke the monster. Just don't. I think that you're going to bite off more than you can chew, and I'd just stay away from Inoue if I was him. Now moving up to women's lightweight, and it looks like Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor couldn't get a deal done, and the fight is not going to be happening right now. So I guess, you know, Eddie Hearn asked for like 10K back from Amanda Serrano that he gave her for like training and everything like that, and Amanda Serrano was just like, we spent it already training, so it's not going to happen. It's Amanda Serrano's like looking at being on like some kind of fitness game show, and she thinks she can make more money doing that than fighting Katie Taylor. I don't know, it's not happening. And so right now we're actually looking at Katie Taylor fighting Pursoon for a rematch. I'm very excited. Actually, I might even be a little bit more excited for this fight in a certain way, because I think that Katie Taylor needs to get this fight underway and really show everyone that she is the unified champion at lightweight. I think that if she doesn't have this rematch, people will always wonder, you know, what kind of favoritism she got on the judges' scorecards. And I think that if she has this rematch and she dominates and she does win clearly, then, you know, that's great. She's kind of cemented herself as a clear champion there. But it also allows Pursoon, you know what, I think a lot of people feel, including myself, like Pursoon got absolutely robbed for that fight. And if she does win, you know, all things have been righted, and I would love to see how this actually turns out. So I'm actually very excited for this fight. Now we're going to be moving up to men's lightweight and kind of breaking down basically the biggest fight that could be happening at this weight division besides Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko fight, and that is Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell. Now I'm going to talk about kind of both sides, and it's a very polarizing kind of fight. There's the Ryan Garcia fan base side that's very much high on him and think that he's easily going to beat Luke. I saw stuff like knockout in the first round, knockout in the second round, Ryan Garcia's levels above Luke, all this kind of stuff. And then I saw the other side that quite honestly just thinks of Ryan Garcia as an Instagram hype job. And where I am on this whole situation is I'm more in the middle. I think Ryan Garcia is a little bit inflated in terms of, because of his social media, he does get a lot of attention, and I think people that are in his fan base think he's better than he actually is, especially when you look at his actual resume. But I don't see why he can't give issues to Luke Campbell. That said, I see Luke Campbell winning this fight. I'm not going to really mix words about this. I think Luke Campbell takes control of this fight and dominates. And the reason I say that is, you know, when you look at the Jorge Linares fight and the Lomachenko fight, both guys are top level fighters. And with the Jorge Linares fight, a lot of people feel like he won that fight. You know, he got a split decision loss in that, but I think a lot of people feel like he really did win that fight. And with the Lomachenko fight, I mean, he really did well in that fight. I mean, there's very few fighters that can even go the distance with Lomachenko, let alone cause as many problems as Luke Campbell did. You know, I'm going to show some video here of that fight and kind of talk about some of the strength Luke Campbell has that allow him to do so well against guys like Lomachenko, and why I think it's also going to give problems for Ryan Garcia. And that has to go down to really Luke Campbell being very skillful using his jab and using his reach and his height to his advantage. Luke Campbell does a great job of controlling distance, and it's one thing that he really did well against Lomachenko. Lomachenko has masterful footwork, certainly better footwork than Ryan Garcia. And if Ryan Garcia is going to be effective with those quick hands, he's going to need to get on the inside. Luke Campbell is just going to use that reach that he has and try to keep him on the outside as much as possible. I think that Ryan Garcia is going to try to kind of get inside and use his speed to get single power shots maybe, but he's not going to be as effective as Luke Campbell is when he's going to be sitting there trying to pepper him from the outside. Now, I think that, you know, Luke Campbell really needs this fight for a couple reasons. Number one, I think that since the Lomachenko fight, a lot of people have been discounting Luke. You start hearing headlines about big lightweights, contenders for these belts. The people I always hear about Tank, I hear about Devin Haney, obviously hear about Ryan Garcia all the time, but I don't hear about Luke Campbell anymore. It's like Luke Campbell doesn't have a chance anymore at these belts. When Devin Haney has a belt, Luke Campbell absolutely has a chance at getting the WBC strap. So there's no question about it that whoever wins this Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell fight absolutely could get a fight with Devin Haney. And there you go. Instantly, Luke Campbell could beat Devin Haney and be WBC champion again. A lot of people, they don't think about Luke Campbell as a major contender. They always talk about some of these other young prospects. The reason I think this is a great fight for Ryan Garcia, and I'm going to kind of talk about the benefits of this fight for Ryan Garcia, is that, like I said, in a lot of boxing experts' eyes, Ryan Garcia has a very weak resume. And I think he does have a weak resume, and he doesn't have an Olympic background, which a lot of people like to see and point to as a sign of kind of pedigree when you're an amateur. He doesn't have that, and because of that, I think he gets discounted a lot of times. And I think that if he beats Luke Campbell, it kind of shows that he is that next step up and he is ready to kind of contend. I mean, how great would that be to see Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia go at it? You know, these kind of two young undefeated prospects going at it for the WBC regular belt. I mean, it'd be fantastic. But, you know, until he beats someone like a Luke Campbell, I don't see Devin Haney wanting to fight someone like a Ryan Garcia, really. I don't think he needs to. And so I think for Ryan Garcia, for him to be elevated to that kind of mandatory position, I think he absolutely needs to beat Luke Campbell, get that interim belt, and, you know, really try to set up something with Devin Haney. So in the end, we'll see if this deal actually gets done and these actual fights happen. But until then, it's always fun to kind of talk about it and see people's opinion. Like I said, I'm on the side that Luke Campbell wins the fight, but at the same time, I really want to see if Ryan Garcia can step up. I think Ryan Garcia has a long future ahead of him in the lightweight division. I think he's a really great young fighter. Who knows, if he does lose, he could definitely learn from it and adapt and come back even stronger, and they could have a rematch. Who knows? But I think for right now, Luke Campbell is a step above, and I would favor him to get a, you know, unanimous decision or maybe a late stoppage if that fight did happen currently. Now we're going to be moving up to middleweight, and we're talking about Derevyanchenko having multiple offers on the table. Apparently he has an offer from Charlo as well as Canelo. Now, I think if I'm Derevyanchenko, I absolutely would go after Charlo. I think that Derevyanchenko would do great against Charlo. The reason being, I think that Derevyanchenko is a very sturdy fighter. I mean, we saw him take shots from Triple G. I think Charlo's used to having his way and kind of controlling the fight. I think Derevyanchenko could walk through some of those serious blows from Charlo and really take the fight to him. I want to see what would happen if they did end up squaring off a lot more almost than Canelo. I think the Canelo fight, I would certainly lean towards Canelo winning. I think that Canelo's right now peak performance, and I think he'd absolutely win that fight. But the Charlo fight's a little bit more interesting, so that's why I'm kind of entertaining it a little bit more. I hope he does go that way. I also don't know what he would be getting paid for the Canelo fight, and if it'd actually be worth it for him to kind of take that kind of beating and like getting that kind of war with Canelo. So we'll see what happens there. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Canelo did get kind of a few people talking about wanting to fight him, one of them being Callum Smith. Callum Smith's always talking about how he hasn't shut the door on fighting Canelo. I don't think that's going to happen, and the person I think that might actually get the deal is John Ryder, and that's because John Ryder said that he's stepping up and absolutely wants to fight Canelo. I also think that John Ryder fits in well for what Canelo wants, because from what I understand, Canelo might have to take somewhat of a pay cut for this next fight because DAZN needs him to. They can't afford him to fight another champion right now and to have a huge payout for both fighters. They need someone that's a little bit cheaper. John Ryder's the man for the job, and I have to hand it to John Ryder to just throw your name in the hat like that and go after Canelo. It shows a lot of guts. So, whether or not, John Ryder does well or not, I have to hand it to him. I have to applaud the man for trying to get in the ring with Canelo and just going right after him, especially after the loss to Callum Smith, which I think he won. So, I think that's a great chance for him to get back up and go for another belt. Hats off to John Ryder for the courage there. Now, another fight that's been talked about is Billy Joe Saunders and Chris Eubank Jr. Now, what's interesting about this fight is that, they haven't fought since 2015, so almost 5 years now. I think that a lot of people that are Billy Joe Saunders fans think, oh, it'd kind of go the same way it did last time. I don't think it would. I actually have Chris Eubank Jr. doing very well in this fight, and based on the last couple fights that Billy Joe Saunders has had and the way he's looked, I think I would maybe even favor Chris Eubank Jr. The reason being is this. I've seen that Billy Joe Saunders is having issues getting down to 160. It seems like he's not staying in shape, and it looks like he's gassing out in fights. Now, add on top of that he was offered the Canelo fight and said that he didn't have enough time to train. He has 10 weeks to train for Canelo. He was supposed to fight Canelo in May. So what's that tell you? It tells you that he really needs all this extra time to get in shape. That tells me you weren't in shape to begin with. So to me, I know that Chris Eubank Jr. is going to show up in shape. He always shows up in shape. I know that Chris Eubank Jr. isn't going to gas out. So to me, I actually have Chris Eubank Jr. winning for that simple fact alone. I'm worried that Billy Joe Saunders is really not taking fighting and boxing serious right now. I think he's kind of playing games. I've heard people say that, comparing him to Adrian Broner. I don't know if I would go that far, but I will say that if Billy Joe Saunders doesn't step his game up and show that he's serious, I mean, he might end up turning into someone like an Adrian Broner, which people just feel like is interesting for press conferences and interesting to talk about. It's not a fighter that they take serious. So we'll see what happens there. Now moving up to heavyweight. First thing I wanted to mention was Jared Big Baby Anderson is going to be fighting on the 9th this week. So that's going to be Thursday night. He's a young prospect I've been talking about. I talked about him a couple weeks ago and talked about how much I like the look of this kid and how I think he's kind of built similar to like a Daniel Dubois, but he's a little bit younger, about 2 years younger. So if you're interested in seeing this kid fight live, he's going to be on ESPN. Check him out. He's going to be on that Top Rank card on the 9th. And let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'm very excited to see this kid fight again. I'm glad to see him jump right back in the ring. I don't think he's going to get much opposition against him. This Hector Perez doesn't seem like it's going to, be too much of a challenge for him. But still, anytime you can see a young prospect like this get in the ring, move around, show what he's got, it's always exciting. And I'm definitely going to tune in because I want to see how this kid develops. Now, moving on from that, we're going to talk a little bit, Glovegate. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but just give you my general thoughts on this. I think this is foolish. I think this is absolutely foolish. I also think it's foolish that Deontay Wilder's brother said that Deontay had an autopsy and that the doctor said that none of this could have happened with fists and, that it was a foreign object. If that's true, get that doctor to publicly come out, put his neck out on the line, and come out with something like that and say something, make a statement, because unless an actual doctor does that, I don't believe you. I really don't believe you. And I'm sick and tired of hearing these excuses. I'm sick and tired of people talking about, Deontay Wilder losing or Tyson Fury's gloves not being right on his hands. I'm so sick of hearing about this. First, it was the first fight and how floppy they were. And now it's about foreign objects in his glove. It's just starting to get really annoying to hear all the different excuses from Wilder fans on why he did so poorly in the last fight. Look, like I said, you have a doctor come out, literally stick his neck out and make a statement about this. I'll listen. But until then, I don't want to hear any of this BS, okay? Speaking of Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, the third fight of the trilogy looks like it's going to be happening on December 19th. And I'm excited because this could be at the new Las Vegas Raiders Stadium, which is very cool. I think it'd be 2 days after a game that would be played there. So they'd have to work with the NFL, obviously with setup, tear down, all that whole situation. But that would be really interesting because that means there could be more opportunities for tickets. They could have a bigger gate. And I'm hoping maybe, just maybe, you know, I could get a ticket for that. I'm not too far from Vegas, and flights are pretty cheap right now. So I'm very hopeful at the idea of going to see them at that new stadium. Really interesting, and it could be a lot of fun. Now, speaking of fighting in the US for Tyson Fury, it looks like for the AJ and Tyson Fury fight, I don't know if it'd be for both. I'm guessing just for at least one of them. It looks like the fight could be taking place in the United States. Now, this is my kind of thoughts on this. Number one, do I think it would be fun for someone like myself to go to Vegas and see this fight happen? Absolutely. I would love to try to go to see this fight live. I would do everything possible to get a ticket to see this fight live. That being said, I think it's wrong. I think it's flat out wrong. This fight needs to happen at Wembley Stadium in front of you British boxing fans. There's no question about it. There's no question about it, because it's not going to be the same if it's not there. If it's not at Wembley Stadium, you're not going to have the same energy. You're not going to have the same noise. You're not going to have the same passion. I mean, both these fan bases, both Tyson Fury's and AJ's, are very, very passionate. And you're not going to get that here in the US. Yes, people will probably travel. I guarantee people would travel for that fight, but I don't want them to. I want them to spend their money on getting better tickets than on planes and hotel rooms and stuff like that. So for me, the selfish side says, yeah, it'd be great for me to be able to go to it, but honestly, I don't want to. I prefer you British boxing fans getting to see this live in person. And you know, for me sitting at home, because I probably won't be able to get a ticket anyways to see it live, getting to see it, you know, through the TV and getting to see the energy that you guys would bring, you know, to this fight would make it that much more special and that much more exciting for me. So with that said, I'm going to kind of end this week. It's a little bit shorter of an episode this week. You know, this week was 4th of July, so I was kind of spending some time with my family. I kind of skipped over a few stories that just sounded big at the beginning, but then just ended up being kind of nothing. But I would like to tell you guys I am coming out with something new for the channel. This is kind of exciting, and I won't give away too many details, but I will say this. We are going to be going beyond just doing boxing news. We're going to be talking about boxing movies. So I'll be breaking down some boxing movies, telling you what I like, what I dislike, and kind of giving you some boxing movie reviews. And it's been, you know, a project I've been working on now for a while, and I wanted to start this project off right. So I had to kind of start with a certain movie, so to speak. I'm not going to give too much away. Like I said, I want to keep things kind of secret until it comes out, but I'm very excited for this. I hopefully you guys will enjoy this, so we can talk about boxing movies. We can talk about boxing news together. And if you enjoyed this week's content, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next week. Bye.